I used to believe that walking away was the bravest thing a person could do. Leaving before things got complicated. Leaving before emotions got heavier than words. That's what I told myself when I first met Ethan Miller in the quiet town of Cedar Falls, Iowa. But life has a strange way of testing the stories we tell ourselves, and sometimes, it doesn't let you stop, even when you want to. I was 26 when I moved to Cedar Falls. I had left behind Chicago, a city that never slept but never truly listened either. After a failed engagement and a career burnout that left me questioning everything, I needed somewhere quieter. Somewhere that didn't know my past. I took a temporary position as a communications coordinator at a small nonprofit downtown. It wasn't glamorous, but it felt honest. Ethan worked in the same building, though for a different organization. He was a project manager for a local youth development program. We shared the same hallway, the same outdated coffee machine, and eventually, the same unspoken glances that lasted a little too long. Our first real conversation happened on a rainy Monday morning. The elevator had stopped between floors, trapping us inside for nearly 40 minutes. At first, there was awkward silence. Then small talk. Then laughter. By the time the doors finally opened, something had shifted. Ethan wasn't loud or overly confident. He spoke carefully, like someone who understood the weight of words. He had grown up in Cedar Falls and carried the town's calm rhythm in his voice. There was something grounding about him, something I hadn't felt in a long time. We didn't rush anything. That was the unspoken agreement between us. Coffee breaks turned into longer conversations. Shared lunches turned into walks after work. We talked about dreams we hadn't told anyone else, disappointments we still carried quietly, and the fear of starting over when you're not sure you have the strength left. I told myself it was harmless. Just two people finding comfort in each other's company. But comfort can turn into attachment faster than you expect. One evening, after a long charity event, we sat on the steps outside the building. The sky was painted in soft shades of orange and blue. Ethan looked at me and said, "I don't know when it happened, but my days feel lighter when you're around." I should have stopped it right there. I should have told him I wasn't ready, that I was still healing, that I was afraid of repeating old mistakes. But I didn't, and neither did he. We started seeing each other more intentionally after that. Still careful, still respectful. There were no dramatic gestures, no rushed promises. Just quiet moments that slowly stitched themselves into my heart. Sunday mornings at the farmer's market. Late night phone calls about nothing and everything. Sitting in comfortable silence, knowing it meant something. But the past has a way of knocking when you least expect it. A letter arrived one afternoon, forwarded from Chicago. It was from my former employer, offering me a senior position, everything I had once worked toward. Better pay, bigger platform, a chance to rebuild the career I thought I had lost. I didn't tell Ethan right away. I spent days walking through Cedar Falls, trying to imagine leaving. The streets had become familiar. The people had become warm. And Ethan, he had become something I hadn't planned for. When I finally told him, his expression didn't change, but his eyes did. "That's huge," he said quietly. "You should be proud." "I don't know what to do," I admitted. "Chicago feels like my past. But staying feels complicated." He nodded slowly. "I won't ask you to stay. And I won't pretend it doesn't hurt." That night, I cried alone in my apartment, realizing that sometimes love doesn't ask you to choose between right and wrong, but between two versions of yourself. As my decision deadline approached, distance crept in. Not because we wanted it to, but because uncertainty is heavy. Conversations became cautious. Laughter softened. We were both bracing for an ending neither of us wanted to name. A week before my answer was due, Ethan asked me to meet him at the old bridge outside town. The one overlooking the river where locals said wishes lingered in the air. "I need to be honest," he said, staring at the water. "When you came into my life, I wasn't looking for anything. But you changed that, and even if you leave, I don't regret a single moment." I felt my chest tighten. "I didn't stop this," I whispered. "I should have." He shook his head. "Neither did I." We stood there, not touching, yet closer than ever. That night, I made my decision. I declined the offer. It wasn't an act of sacrifice. It was an act of clarity. I realized I didn't want to run anymore. Not from places, not from people, not from feelings that scared me just because they mattered. When I told Ethan, he didn't celebrate. He didn't promise forever. He simply smiled and said, "Then let's take this one honest day at a time." Months passed. Life continued with its ups and downs. We argued sometimes. We doubted ourselves sometimes. But we didn't stop choosing communication over silence, patience over fear, and respect over assumptions. Love didn't arrive like a dramatic ending to a movie. It grew quietly, steadily, in the everyday moments we chose to show up for each other. Looking back now, I understand something I didn't back then. Not stopping isn't always a mistake. Sometimes, it's an act of courage. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is stay.